Hello everyone, this will be the second half of the Intro to Demand lecture. Today I'm going to be talking about the 3 reasons why a demand curve slopes downward. You're also going to learn about what a demand schedule is and what a demand curve is, basically how we take information from a schedule and plot it onto a graph. So let me start my lecture, minimize myself here, and on to the lecture. So why does this demand curve slope downward this direction? Here, as we learned before, the law of demand states that when the price is high, we can come out here and see that people only want one of this item. As the price becomes low, we want more of it. We want 5 items. But what are the 3 things that cause this to happen? First thing is called the income effect. Second one is called the substitution effect. The third one is called the law of diminishing marginal utility. I really wish we were in school for this reason. I have a fun activity that helps explain the law of diminishing marginal utility, but I have maybe a fun video that you'll enjoy that will help understand this. But let's start with the first one. The income effect is basically what happens to the amount of money you have when prices go up or down. And when prices rise, you have less money to buy something. So when the price goes up, the quantity demanded is going to go down. And an example of that could be average sales of houses. As the price of a house, especially where we live in the Portland area, goes up, your income buys less of a house. It becomes harder to buy a house. And of course, the opposite is also true, that when the price of something comes down, you have more income to buy more things. Think about when things go on sale, or places like McDonald's has their dollar menu, right? If something is only $1 and you had $3, and you now can buy a lot more stuff with that $3 than you were previously. So that's one of the reasons why the demand curve slopes down. The next one is called the substitution effect. To substitute something essentially means to replace one like thing with something else. So if there is a substitute for a good, you, generally speaking, are going to be less willing and able to buy the good if the substitute is cheaper. And one of the easiest things to really think about is soda, right? If the price of Coke becomes way more expensive, a lot of people would just say, all right, I'll just drink Pepsi. Now, this is not always true, because some people are very particular about their soft drinks and they only like one brand. I worked with a guy who Diet Coke was his only thing he could drink, so there are always some exceptions to these rules. And then the last one is called marginal utility, or diminishing utility. If you remember from our activity where we did our trade simulation, we learned about what utility, or its usefulness, its value to you. And marginal utility means one extra little bit. The usefulness of having one more thing, one more slice of pizza, one more cup of coffee. How less of something do you like it as you have one more? All right, and so that utility is going to be that satisfaction that we get from consuming one additional unit of product. Now, the law of diminishing marginal utility basically says that as you consume one more thing, your satisfaction starts to go down. Consumption, that first bite isn't as good as the 10th bite or the 20th bite of something, essentially. All right. And, at some point, if you're at a restaurant, you get full, right? If you go to a buffet where you can eat as much as you want, are you able to sit there and eat for 3 hours? No, because at some point you get full, and the satisfaction of that extra bite of whatever it is becomes a lot less satisfying. It loses its usefulness. All right, so you're less willing to spend money on something as you keep consuming more of it. Okay, so it loses its usefulness. And one good example, our class, we were going to do something where we were going to use donuts to do this, but unfortunately that did not work. But I found a funny video. Let's see if this will work. About Homer Simpson and the law of diminishing marginal utility.
Donuts, eh? Well, have all the donuts in the world! I don't understand it. James Coco went mad in 15 minutes.
All right, so as we can see here, the Homer does not respond to the law of diminishing marginal utility because even after he ate that first donut, they kept tasting just as delicious for him. For most people, though, that is not the case. So, what does this all mean? So we take information about how much people want at various prices. And when you make a list, like we have here, this T-chart, this is going to be called a schedule. Anytime you have a list of information, it's called a schedule. And if we just have a random series of increasing prices from $2 up to $10, we can create a realistic demand quantity demanded amount for these various prices using the law of demand as a basis of understanding. So for example, if the price of something is $2, maybe somebody wants 5 of that item. As the price gets more expensive, maybe they want one less, and as you can see, as the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. That's that inverse relationship. Now, this information here, we can take this information and we can put it onto a graph. And as you can see, on the vertical axis is always going to be the price. On the horizontal axis here will always be the quantity demanded. So you simply take the information from the previous slide. So if there was a price of 10, they would only want one of those items. So as you can see, if I take 10 out here, I would draw a dot right here, which corresponds to the quantity demanded of 1. When the price is 8, the quantity demanded corresponds to 2, and so forth. And you can see that causes the curve to be a downward sloping curve. All right, like it says, at the price of 8, the quantity demanded is 2 units. And so basically what happens is when the price of something changes, your quantity demanded changes. All right, so point B, when the price gets lowered from $8, point A, down to $6 at point B, what happens? Your quantity demanded is going to increase from 2 units up to 3 units, as you can see here. So a price change, whenever there's a price change in something, basically what it means is there's movement along this curve right here. We're going to learn in future lessons that this entire curve, based on things that are going on in society and our wants and needs and lots of other factors, this whole entire curve can actually shift to the left and shift to the right. But that's going to be for a future lecture. Anyhow, here are some review questions which I'm going to put into Canvas for you guys to answer. I'm also going to ask you to make up your own demand schedule and graph that out on a piece of paper for any product or service you want. And basically, you don't have to have exact prices. You just have to correctly use the theory of demand, the law of demand, to create an accurate demand schedule and demand graph. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this lecture today. As always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate in contacting me. And yeah, hope everybody is healthy and safe and finishing all their work. All right, once again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care.